Mel's 2 cents.
Hey! The fact that you are watching this video tells me that you are getting married. So congratulations! I'm very happy for you. And I really hope this checklist helped you. But I actually want to focus on once you are married and the things from a financial point of view that you need to look at. So I hope you find these tips helpful. The most important thing is once you get married, get that new ID document. And yes, it might take some time, so make work of it so that you can start changing your details at all the companies and make sure that they have the correct details on record. The second reason why you need to get that updated is that FICA in South Africa, I don't know how it works overseas, but in South Africa, is a very difficult thing to prove. You need proof of identification, proof of address, proof of local bank account, tax reference number, things like that. And you need those things to agree to prevent any confusion at some point in the future. So the sooner you can get that new surname and get proof of address in that new surname of yours as a female, I'm talking from a female point of view, the better, so that you can start getting all that FICA in order. And usually if you haven't lived together yet by the time you got married and you're only moving in together in like a new home, a new flat or rental once you get married, then you need to update your FICA records with all the companies that you perhaps have policies with, medical aid, your retirement annuities, any savings, things like that. You need to let them know, and you need to update those details. It's a FICA requirement. So you get that proof ready. That will help you a lot. Okay. The second thing is your will. If you didn't have a will once you got married as an individual, then it's definitely very important that you think about it sooner rather than later. And if you had one, have it amended very quickly, so that you can make sure things happen the way you intend for them should one of you pass away. Okay. The most important reason for this is to appoint an executor. So if you don't have an executor that you appoint to act on your behalf, then the estate is standing still when you pass away, and the administration is delayed for a long process and term. So I suggest you make work of getting that will. Also, when you leave something to your spouse, you get a tax deduction in your estate. So that will help a lot from a tax point of view as well, when you have that will and you leave everything to your spouse. That's not always the perfect solution. Sometimes you need to have and consider other beneficiaries, but I'm just talking now plain simple basics, no complications. That would be good. Okay. The next thing you need to do is look at that medical aid and that gap cover. That's very important, because sometimes, or most of the times, it's cheaper to have two people on one medical aid and gap cover than it is for each of them to have their own. So if you already have each individual's, you might want to consider merging it to save money, or consider looking at both individually and see which one's got the better benefits, the better price, and see how you could maybe merge your cover for a tax savings, but also for better benefits perhaps. Because there are certain underwriting rules when it comes to medical aid that only applies to the membership. So if you join as independent, then you score. Same with the gap cover. You could look at that, but yeah, make work of it. Then the next thing you need to look at is your beneficiaries on your policies and your retirement annuities. So you probably, as an individual, if you already had a cover, you might have nominated your parents or a sibling. You now need to change that to your spouse. So remember to go talk to a financial advisor and change the beneficiaries on your retirement annuities and your policies to be your spouse. Okay. There's many reasons I say this, but I don't want to get too technical. I'm just reminding you about a few things that you shouldn't forget about once you're married. Okay. Then your budget. Go look at that budget, because two separate budgets and one combined budget looks very different. Combine the budgets, look how you can split expenses and share it equally or in relationship to your incomes, in ratio, and see how much you have left over in a month so you can start saving, especially an emergency fund. If you already have one as an individual, see how you can accommodate your spouse to maybe split it between the two of you, or how he can equal amount save up for another goal. But yeah, see how you can accommodate that so you can start that emergency fund. As a married couple, that's very important, because if one spouse has a bad month, there should be at least 3 months salary worth of savings in an emergency fund, so that spouse maybe loses his job or something and adds some time to find another job. Or maybe it's a commission earner, and we all know how that works, and sometimes you don't get any income, and it's good to have that emergency fund as a backup, which needs to be maintained because it quickly runs out in bad months or tough times, or Christmas when you have to buy gifts, or when the car needs tires or service, or tax needs to be paid, or the house needs to be painted, or the fridge breaks in December. Those kind of reasons why you need an emergency fund. Okay. So the next thing you need to look at, and I'm just looking at my notes so I don't forget anything, is estate planning. I mentioned that quickly when I mentioned the will, but it's important to make sure there's enough cover so that you can pay for the funeral when that happens, if something happens, the executor's fees, if applicable, the deceased estate costs, transfer duty maybe on a property that needs to be transferred, registration fees of any firearms or vehicles that might need to be transferred, and then tax. There will almost always be tax when things need to be transferred. Sometimes if it's a spouse that inherits everything, there's rollover, so it depends on the type of tax and how your estate is structured, but it's something you need to look at. And provide sufficient to replace your spouse's income, because you want to make sure the moment you start living together and earn a combined income with combined expenses on a budget, if one falls away, it's got a massive impact on the other person's cash flow. So make sure that that spouse's salary is replaced for a period of time which you can discuss and determine, or whatever portion of it you require for yourself to continue living a certain lifestyle. Once that partner passes away, make sure that there's enough life cover to cover that. So that's one thing. Other thing is, if you have not considered disability cover or severe illness cover up until this point, now you have to, because now your spouse is really dependent on your income and you being there. So the moment you fall away, they need to replace certain things you did, like cooking, or then just your income to pay things like the medical aid and retirement annuities and policies. Yes, they will reduce if your partner falls away for death, but for disability they continue, they don't stop. So those expenses are still there. So it's very important that if someone becomes severely ill and disabled and they can't work and earn an income, that there's some sort of insurance that replaces that. And to me, this is a much bigger risk than the person falling away. Then you have to consider things like retirement planning together. If you have done it separately so far, see if both are on the same page and you reach your targets more or less, and then make sure that you can reach that goal together and set a goal for your retirement. And maybe you have different ideas and pictures of how you want to retire. So maybe just have that discussion and make sure that you save. Okay. Then lastly, it's important that you save for things like holidays. Save for if you want to buy a new car, or perhaps a deposit on a property if you want to buy a property someday. So those are the kind of things that you need to save towards, and you have to have a discussion about your mutual goals so that you can save together and equally contribute to it. So I hope these tips helped. I'm going to summarize them here on a slide for you so that you can see what it is that I mentioned, and then go speak to someone that can help you to get all of these boxes ticked. Okay. Thank you for watching.